Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges the youth towards politics, says Viksit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue to be held in New Delhi next year. In fresh violence, at least 18 killed, several injured in sectarian clashes in northwestern Pakistan. 82 people killed in the past 3 days. In Baku, the world reaches a $300 billion climate finance deal at COP29 amid protestations. And in sports, Jasprit Bumrah strikes early to put the hosts under after India declares the second innings at 487 for 6 on day 3. And what a scene it was at the Conference of Parties, or COP29 in Baku in Azerbaijan, where world leaders have agreed to a hard-fought COP29 deal in Baku to provide a $300 billion annual fund, that's an annual climate finance by 2035 to help the poorer countries deal with the impacts of climate change, with the rich countries pledging payments. The new goal is intended to replace the developed countries' previous commitment to provide $100 billion per year in climate finance for poorer nations by 2020. That goal crossed its limit. It came in late in 2022 and expires in 25. And the countries have also agreed on the rules for a global market to buy and sell carbon credits that the proponents of this proposal say they could mobilize billions more into projects to help fight global warming, from reforestation to deployment of clean energy technologies. COP29 President Mukhtar Babayev gavelled the deal into acceptance, and listen to this, but that was before any nation got a chance to speak.
I now resume the 11th meeting of the CMA. I invite parties to turn to agenda sub-items 11A, new collective quantified goal on climate finance. I hereby invite the CMA to adopt the draft decision contained in document CMA/2024 L.22.
So understandably, there were protestations against that by the developing world. But the European Union has hailed the deal as a new era in finance for poorer countries to fight global warming.
Last year I said that COP28 was the beginning of the end of fossil fuels. And what I would like to add now is that, in my view, COP29 will be remembered as the start of a new era for climate finance. And the European Union and its member states will continue to play a leading role. And we have worked hard with all of you to ensure that there is significantly more money on the table. We're tripling the 100 billion goal, and we feel it is ambitious, it is needed, it is realistic, and it is achievable.
With a central focus on climate finance, COP29 brought together nearly 200 countries in Baku and reached a breakthrough agreement. The deal reached at the UN climate talks in Azerbaijan ramps up the money that wealthy but historic emitters will provide to developing nations to transition to cleaner energy and adapt to global warming. Take a look at this report.
Nations had struggled to reconcile long-standing divisions over how much rich nations most accountable for historic climate change should provide to poorer countries least responsible but most impacted by Earth's rapid warming. At points, the talks appeared on the brink of collapse, with developing nations storming out of meetings and threatening to walk away should rich nations not cough up more cash. After 2 exhausting weeks of chaotic bargaining and sleepless nights, nearly 200 nations packed through the contentious finance pact in the early hours in a sports stadium in Azerbaijan. After the adoption, India delivered a full-throated rejection of the abysmally poor dollar figure just agreed.
That this document is nothing more than an optical illusion. This, in our opinion, will not address the enormity of the challenge we all face. Therefore, we oppose the adoption of this document. We oppose the adoption of this document. India opposes the adoption of this document, and please take note and regard of what we have just said from the floor of this room.
Many developing countries had pushed for at least $500 billion, but developed nations under political and fiscal pressure had played down such expectations. The African group of negotiators said that the $300 billion climate finance deal is too little too late for the continent.
If we walk back home with 300 and we say that the developed countries are taking the lead, this is an insult to what the convention says. It also said that the developed countries will take the lead, and this lead is climate finance. That the developing country is saying that it's taking the lead with $300 billion till 2035 is a joke. And it's not something we should take lightly. I do not think it's something we should clap our hands and force us to take it. I do not think so. I think we should rethink it.
The US and EU have wanted newly wealthy emerging economies like China, the world's largest emitter, to chip in. The final deal encourages developing countries to make contributions on a voluntary basis, reflecting no change for China, which already provides climate finance on its own terms. This year's COP was the third in a row to be held in a fossil fuel producing country, with both the OPEC Secretary General and the President of host country, Azerbaijan, telling the summit that oil and gas resources were a gift from God. UN Climate Chief Simon Stiell acknowledged the deal was imperfect and said no country got everything they wanted.
No country got everything they wanted, and we leave Baku with a mountain of work to do. The many other issues we need to progress may not be headlines, but they are lifelines for billions of people. So this is no time for victory laps. We need to set our sights and redouble our efforts on the road to Beleng. Even so, we've shown the UN Paris Agreement is delivering, but governments still need to pick up the pace.
In the end, the summit failed to set steps for countries to build on last year's COP28 pledge to transition away from fossil fuels and triple renewable energy capacity this decade. Many negotiators saw this as a failure and a sign that fossil fuel interests were overpowering climate talks. Aarti Rana's report for DD India.
A climate change protest off the coast of Australia's New South Wales state forced an inbound ship to turn back from the country's largest terminal for coal exports on Sunday. A total of 138 arrests were made after protesters refused to comply with the direction to move away from the channel. Protests were taking place were in the shipping channel near the port of Newcastle as part of the 50-hour blockade that started on Friday. The Port of Newcastle spokesperson said that disruption due to the protest was minimal, but that an inbound vessel aborted due to people in the channel and has been rescheduled to come in. And in other climate news, the 10th meeting of the India-EU Energy Panel took place in Brussels. It focused on energy transition priorities of both sides and reviewed the achievements of the second phase of the India-EU Clean Energy and Climate Partnership 2021-2024. During the meetings, the two sides undertook the completed joint initiatives involving technical cooperation in 51 activities divided into 9 sectors. The two sides have also charted out the framework for green hydrogen cooperation, which includes cooperation on green hydrogen policies between India and the European Union. At the meeting, a work plan was adopted for the third phase of the India-EU Clean Energy and Climate Partnership 25-28, which will focus on deeper cooperation in 5 priority areas. EU and its member states participated in the International Conference on Green Hydrogen 2024 in India, while India joined as an executive country partner of as an exclusive country partner of the European Hydrogen Week 2024. Well, on to West Asia now. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell arrived in Beirut on Sunday amidst escalating tensions between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah. Borrell met Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati to discuss the country's situation and was expected to meet with the Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri later today. And the visit comes as another Hezbollah missile struck northern Israel's Malon on Sunday. The strike damaged the outer wall of a factory. One woman was injured in the attack. Israeli President Isaac Herzog expressed his deep sorrow and outrage on Sunday after an Israeli man who went missing in the UAE was found murdered. Herzog condemned the incident as a vile anti-Semitic attack in a social media post on social media platform X. The Israeli citizen was identified as Zvi Kogan, a representative in the UAE of Chabad. Kogan was missing since Thursday afternoon. The Israeli Prime Minister's office in a statement said that the state of Israel will use all means at its disposal to bring the criminals responsible for his death to justice. Following the incident, Israel has also advised its citizens to avoid non-essential travel to the UAE. Meanwhile, protesters in Tel Aviv rallied on Saturday to mark 414 days since October 7, 2023, demanding the release of hostages held in Gaza. The protesters called on the government to prioritize the safe return of the hostages. Some protesters lay on the ground in protest wearing masks marked with "Help" in red.
We just want it to finish. We just want Itai to come back home with all the 100 hostages, and we need to go back to our lives. That's what we want. That's why we are here, to stop it, to finish it, because we can't stand anymore. We're here every week for more than 13 months, more than a year, and it's not over.
It's 414 days. It's a very tough day today. There is the Israeli army spokesman said that there is hostages perhaps die in the captivity. They checking that. They are taken to the family, and we are demonstrating of that. It's if one of them is dead, what else can we do? That find the solution of release all the hostages because they dying there, and if we lose another one, live one, it's terrible.
In other updates, a gunman was shot dead and 3 policemen were injured after a shooting incident near the Israeli embassy in Jordan ended while investigations are ongoing. The Jordanian police had earlier cordoned off an area near the heavily policed embassy after gunshots were heard. The area near the embassy, which maintains a significant security presence, is known as a focal point for protests against Israel. Updates from Pakistan now. At least 18 people have been killed overnight and 30 others injured in fresh sectarian violence in the northwestern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In the past 3 days alone, at least 82 people have been killed and 156 more have been injured in the region. According to the Chief Secretary of the province, the violence erupted on Friday night when armed assailants attacked a village in the tribal Khurram district. The incident follows a week of heightened tensions, including attacks on transport convoys that has claimed the lives of many civilians. Meanwhile, in Islamabad, security was tightened around the red zone as supporters of Tehreek-e-Insaf party led by imprisoned former Prime Minister Imran Khan announced plans for protests calling for his release. Reports coming in from Pakistan say that Rawalpindi and Islamabad are twin cities. They've been totally jammed. A curfew-like situation prevails there. Heavy deployment of security personnel, internet cut off, barricades put on. It's a garrison town, a fortress of sorts for the moment. Still to come on DD India News Hour, Donald Trump picks Brooke Rollins as his agriculture secretary. Now, Romanians turned out in huge numbers to vote in the country's federal elections. Storm Perth leaves the streets and sidewalks in Northwest Ireland submerged.
Our environment is becoming increasingly unlivable and polluted. So we need to fix that, sure, but we also need to take steps to prevent these problems from happening in the first place.
This is our upgraded form of our effluent treatment plant. It's a primary plant that recycles and reuses water for relining purposes.
I think that renewable energy is a sector that can change the GDP of Ladakh. If you can generate power and sell it to other states, you can increase the income of Ladakh.
When we're looking at renewables investment, which clearly has been growing rapidly, and in 2022 met that from fossil fuel, and 2023 far exceeded it.
Our motto is that all the farmers should switch to millet farming and nutritious food should reach people.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has reached Rome for an official visit to Italy from the 24th to the 26th of November. The minister will travel to Italy's Fiuggi to participate in the outreach session of the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting, where India has been invited as a guest country. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar is also expected to meet his counterparts from Italy and other participating nations in the G7-related engagements and hold bilateral discussions. The EAM will also inaugurate the new premises of the Embassy of India in Rome, apart from participating in the 10th edition of the Mediterranean Dialogue in Rome. And the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also arrived in Italy on Sunday to attend the G7 meeting next week. G7 leaders last Saturday reiterated a pledge to keep imposing severe costs on Russia through sanctions, export controls and other measures, and vowed to support Kyiv for as long as it takes. The State Department said that Blinken would discuss issues including conflicts in West Asia and Ukraine, Indo-Pacific security and the ongoing crisis in both Haiti and Sudan at the gathering in Italy. Updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russia's air defense system intercepted 2 Ukrainian missiles and 27 drones over Russian Kursk region early on Sunday. Kursk region Governor Alexei Smirnov urged the residents to stay away from the wreckage. Earlier, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the Russian drone and missile attacks have damaged 321 Ukrainian port infrastructure facilities since July last year. He further added that 20 merchant ships belonging to other countries were also damaged. Ukraine is a major global wheat and corn grower and exported about 6 million tons of grain per month via the Black Sea. After February 2022 attack, Russia blockaded Ukraine's Black Sea ports, affecting the shipments.
From July 2023 up to this month, 321 port infrastructure facilities were damaged by Russian missile and Iranian drone strikes. More than 20 civilian ships were also hit, were damaged. And these were the ships of other countries, not Ukrainian ones.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has chosen Brooke Rollins, who's the president of the America First Policy Institute, to be his agriculture secretary. If confirmed by the Senate, Rollins would lead a 100,000-person agency with offices in every county in the country, who remit farm and nutrition programs, forestry, home and farm lending, food safety, rural development, agricultural research, trade and more. As Agriculture Secretary, Rollins would advise the administration on how and whether to implement clean fuel tax credits for biofuels. The nominee would also guide next year's renegotiation of the US-Mexico-Canada trade deal. Romanians turned out in large numbers to vote in capital Bucharest on Sunday to replace the outgoing centrist Klaus Iohannis, who is at the end of his second and last term. Opinion surveys show leftist Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu, the leader of Romania's largest party, the Social Democrats, will make it into the runoff vote with George Simeon of the Alliance of Uniting Romanians, the likely runner-up. Analysts expect Ciolacu to win the second round against Simeon, appealing to moderates and touting his expertise running Romania during a conflict next door, but do not rule out a switch-up amid frustration with the high cost of living. In other updates, hundreds of anti-government demonstrators took to the streets of Bogota in Colombia on Saturday to voice their discontent with the administration of leftist President Gustavo Petro. The march culminated at the Bolivar Square, where a crowd estimated at over 2,000 gathered near the Congress building, waving banners with messages like "No more corruption" and "Petro out." Feminist groups, organizations, activists and civilians marched in Lima in Peru on Saturday to protest gender violence as part of the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. The protesters demanded effective action from authorities to combat women killings and gender-based violence in the country. The demonstration follows reports that women killings in Peru between January and September this year have already surpassed those recorded during the same period in 2023, with 121 women killed. And thousands of people marched in several cities across France on Saturday protesting violence against women. In Paris, around 7,000 people took to the streets holding banners and chanting slogans 2 days ahead of the International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women. Saturday's marches come amid the trial over mass rape of Gisèle Pelicot, organized by her husband over 10 years. And it looks like it's a season of protests. Thousands of people protested on Saturday in Barcelona to demand lower housing rental prices and better living conditions. About 22,000 people attended the demonstration in Barcelona. Housing has become a key issue as Spain struggles to balance promoting tourism, a key driver of its economy, and addressing citizens' concerns over unaffordably high rents due to gentrification and landlords shifting to more lucrative short-term tourist rentals. Well, from Europe to California, nature is flexing its extremes this week. Storm Bert has brought snow, floods and chaos to the United Kingdom and Ireland, while California faces a historic deluge. Take a look.
Storm Bert has left streets and sidewalks in Northwest Ireland submerged, particularly in Newton Abbey, where a river burst its banks. The Met Office has warned of multi-hazard conditions with snow, rain and strong winds battering much of the UK this weekend.
Probably about 6:30 this morning, the river burst its banks up behind us here, and the river basically just flowed down the whole way down the street here, Bridge Street in Killybegs, and flooded all the premises and houses along the street here as well. And so
the water has receded now, but we're expecting very heavy rain tonight, so that's why the sandbags are still out this evening, and hopefully that we can protect the rest of the homes. People are distraught. They're really upset by everything that's going on. There's a lot of businesses being put out and a lot of the local community that are quite devastated by this.
Ireland, Britain and France are reeling under the storm's impact, with 60,000 homes in Ireland left powerless and severe disruptions to roads, ferries and trains. Communities in Northwest Ireland devastated by the storm are now beginning to assess the damages. In England's Northumberland, heavy snowfall turned Gunnerton into a picturesque winter wonderland. But the beauty came with travel chaos. Yellow and amber weather warnings remain in place across the United Kingdom. Severe weather disrupts traffic in Istanbul. Maritime routes were cancelled, leaving commuters stranded. Numerous flights were grounded at Istanbul airport. In California, 2 die in storm flooding-related incidents in Sonoma County. Downtown Santa Rosa received a staggering 18 inches of rain over 3 days, marking this as a once-in-a-thousand-year event. Santa Rosa also broke records at Sonoma County Airport, with nearly 7 inches of rainfall recorded in a single day. And the cheerful news is from Imako-yasen in Japan's Hiroshima, where visitors are enjoying autumn colors. The streets and gardens are awash with vibrant hues of red, orange and yellow, offering a striking contrast to the weather chaos elsewhere. Bureau Report, DD India.
And let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. At least 7 people were killed and 33 injured in a road accident on a highway in northern Peru. The mishap involved 2 vehicles, one a bus filled with students and a van which collided and plunged off the road in the early morning. The police and firefighters carried out rescue and recovery operations. A massive fire swept through a densely populated slum in Philippines' capital Manila, engulfing over 1,000 homes in the raging inferno of the orange flames and thick black smoke. There are no immediate reports of casualties. And famed Cuban artist Manuel Mendive has focused on the relationship between man and nature in his most recent exhibition at the 15th Havana Biennial. In his recent exhibition, Mendive mixes diverse techniques, styles and colors on a range of materials and textures to depict Cuba's landscapes and wildlife. And still to come on DD India News Hour, Bhutanese Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay on a 3-day visit to India. Government convenes an all-party meeting ahead of the winter session of Parliament beginning tomorrow. And alliance leaders hold meetings over government formation in Maharashtra and Jharkhand.
Lights, camera, IFFI. The stage is all set. Straight from the scenic Goa, we get you all the latest and live action from the 55th edition of International Film Festival of India, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Amritpal Singh. Before we proceed further, let's take a quick look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urges youth towards politics, says Viksit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue to be held in Delhi next year. In fresh violence, at least 18 killed, several others injured in sectarian clashes in northwestern Pakistan. 82 people killed in the past 3 days. In Baku, world reaches $300 billion climate finance deal at COP29. Going back to our top story on COP29, where a $300 billion deal has been achieved, climate finance deal has been achieved amid protestations. To discuss that, how COP29 went, what the future looks like, where are the climate change talks heading to, I'm joined by R.R. Rashmi, distinguished fellow at the TERI, and he also is an ex-special secretary of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Rashmi, for being on the show. Right. So, sir, we saw a $300 billion climate finance deal adopted, $250 billion being pushed, fund being pushed, then protestations, 300 adopted. But quite dramatically, the divisions were very, very evident at that conference. The president had to gavel it down before anybody else could speak. And then countries like India and Nigeria put out strong protestations to it.
Yes, absolutely. Finance has always been an extremely divisive issue in the climate negotiations all along. And the success of this Baku conference hinged actually on a successful outcome on the climate finance issue. Unfortunately, the ambition is very low, considering the geopolitical circumstances, the willingness, the ability, and the inclination of the developed countries to put money on the table is very, very low at this moment. So, although Baku has been able to take a decision on the climate finance issue in form of $300 billion of package, but the parties are extremely dissatisfied, and they are not happy with this outcome because it's very low in ambition. Still, considering the larger uncertainties next year, when the political dispensations around the world might change, then there will be further uncertainty. And considering that, I think parties have been pushed to accepting this low ambition deal.
Okay. And one question that's asked is that the developing countries keep harping, saying that the money is too less and you are the historical emitters. You have the money, so you pay for it, help us adapt. We got populations to feed. But the rich countries turn around and say, we have, weathering the economic headwinds, we do not have that kind of money to part with at the moment. So pitch in or take as much as we really can give. In such kind of a scenario, how does the forward movement take place?
It's true that the entire world is under stress, financially and politically. Different countries have different sets of problems, but it's a legal and historical responsibility of the developed world, which has benefited from the emissions in the past. Now it is their turn to...
So you say it is a legal responsibility, Mr. Rashmi. How is it a legal responsibility? Moral responsibility, I understand. Legal, how?
It is an obligation under the UNFCCC. It is a United Nations convention. And United Nations agreements are legally binding on all countries which are signatory.
Does that put a figure? Does that put a figure?
And under the Paris Agreement, there is an obligation to decide a goal. That is why these discussions were taking place. Earlier, in the pre-Paris arrangement, the figure was $100 billion, which was originally agreed at Copenhagen and then formalized under the Paris Agreement. So that was surviving till 2025 now. And after 2025, we have to come up with a new goal. That is the whole discussion about. And they have now agreed to triple the amount of $100 billion goal into $300 billion goal. That's all. Although the demand has been that considering the devastation which developing countries and all the other countries in the world are suffering because of climate change impacts, and also the mitigation responsibility which has been cast upon them to move towards a low carbon development transition pathway, the requirement is huge. It's running into trillions of dollars. The G20 itself had last year come up with a figure. The independent experts group had come up with a 1.8 trillion. The needs assessment report of the UNFCCC under the Paris Agreement talks about almost $4 trillion for energy transition alone, and almost 5 to 6.8 for the net zero pathway. So the requirement is huge in terms of trillions of dollars. But this Baku conference has basically come down to saying that we don't have trillions of dollars, just make do with $300 billion to begin with as core finance, and then we will have a multi-layered superstructure around it, which will include private sector mobilization so that we can add up to $1.3 trillion. That is what the Baku deal is about.
And add to that, that it's just a pledge. Remember that $100 billion pledge by 2020 came around by 2022. We don't know, political dispensations change. Don't follow that.
True. In fact, there is a concern that out of this, against this $100 billion, the actual net outflows in terms of public finance is just about $20 billion. Whereas the rest of it, the OECD claims that they have mobilized $105 billion, but rest of it is basically private sector finance and mobilized finance through multilateral channels, which is, it doesn't add up to the public sector, and government obligations. So this is the frustration about, and this led to the AOCs and LDCs walking out of the conference. And after the decision was given, India and Nigeria spoke about their disappointment, their frustration with the kind of way that the decision was pushed. So India was expressing lending its voice to the disappointment of the global South about this low level of ambition. But be that as it may, we will have to gear up now.
Make do with what you get.
Yes. And we have to start working on this.
Absolutely. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Rashmi, for joining us, taking our time and sharing your insights with us. Thank you. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared his thoughts with the people of the country and people living abroad in his monthly program Mann Ki Baat on All India Radio on Sunday. Prime Minister Modi addressed the crucial role of youth in building Viksit Bharat or developed India, stressing that energy, skills and commitment of young people are essential for the nation's growth. He also celebrated a major milestone of the Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam campaign, which has successfully planted 100 crore trees in just 5 months. The campaign has turned into a global movement with citizens across the country participating in the environmental initiative.
मध्य प्रदेश के इंदौर में एक पेड़ माँ के नाम अभियान के तहत पेड़ लगाने का रिकॉर्ड बना है। यहाँ 24 घंटे में 12 लाख से ज़्यादा पेड़ लगाए गए। राजस्थान के जैसलमेर में इस अभियान के द्वारा एक अनोखा रिकॉर्ड बना। यहाँ महिलाओं की एक टीम ने 1 घंटे में 25,000 पेड़ लगाए। बिहार में जीविका सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप की महिलाओं ने 75 लाख पेड़ लगाने का अभियान चला रही है।
And Prime Minister Modi also noted that the 116th episode of the program coincided with the National Cadet Corps or NCC Day. He emphasized that the significance of NCC in shaping the personality of students and urged young people to join in large numbers.
NCC युवाओं में अनुशासन, नेतृत्व और सेवा की भावना पैदा करती है। आपने अपने आसपास देखा होगा, जब भी कहीं कोई आपदा होती है, चाहे बाढ़ की स्थिति हो, कहीं भूकंप आया हो, कोई हादसा हुआ हो, वहाँ मदद करने के लिए एनसीसी के कैडेट्स जरूर मौजूद हो जाते हैं। आज देश में एनसीसी को मजबूत करने के लिए लगातार काम हो रहा है। पहले एनसीसी में गर्ल्स कैडेट्स की संख्या करीब 25% के आसपास ही होती थी। अब एनसीसी में गर्ल्स कैडेट्स की संख्या करीब 40% हो गई है।
Bhutanese Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay is on a 3-day visit to India. He'll be taking part in a program in Delhi on Monday and will depart on Tuesday. The Bhutanese Prime Minister visited India in March earlier this year on his first foreign trip since assuming office. And the Indian government held an all-party meeting in Parliament ahead of the winter session with leaders including Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiren Rijiju and Congress leaders Pramod Tiwari and Jairam Ramesh in attendance. The winter session will begin on Monday and will run until December 20th. The third session of the 18th Lok Sabha and the 266th session of Rajya Sabha will see the introduction of key bills including the Muslim Waqf Repeal Bill 2024 and the Waqf Amendment Bill. Update on India's assembly elections now. After securing a grand victory, the partners of the Mahayuti alliance in Maharashtra are holding meetings to decide on the further course of action. The Bharatiya Janata Party-led Mahayuti alliance registered a landslide victory in assembly polls in the West Indian state of Maharashtra. The ruling alliance secured a comfortable majority in the state's 288-seat assembly. Victory marked BJP's best ever performance in the state. And the Indi alliance, spearheaded by Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, emerged victorious in East India's Jharkhand assembly election. JMM and its allies comfortably secured a majority mark. JMM leader and Chief Minister of the state, Hemant Soren, held a meeting to elect the leader of the Indi bloc. And for more on the negotiations and the talks going on between the leaders of the Mahayuti alliance, I'm joined by my colleague Shama Mishra, who joins us from Mumbai. Shama, bring us up to date of what is really transpiring, who is asking for what, who will be the next chief minister, what would be the formula, would there be 2 deputy chief ministers, what will go to what, cabinet? Give us a sense of what is going on.
Well, for starters, Amrit, this is a secondary question that who is asking what, because everybody is asking for the post of Chief Minister, and as we've heard Devendra Fadnavis yesterday, that he said all the leaders, all the top leaders of the party, of the allies, will sit together and have a discussion and decide as to who will be the chief minister of Maharashtra. As for now, we are saying that all the party workers of each party, they are expecting and are also wanting that their top leader should be the face of chief minister. We've also seen a lot of posters in various parts of the city saying that, Ajit Pawar, from Ajit Pawar's group, that Ajit Pawar is the future chief minister of Maharashtra, the Bhavi Mukhyamantri. Other than him, we are also seeing posters of Eknath Shinde party workers. They've also mentioned in such a way that, the time at the oath ceremony, how a chief minister takes oath, it's mentioned in that way. And even the BJP, now we know for a fact that BJP has secured the maximum number of seats. It is going to be BJP who will be who will be taking that particular decision. We are here at Bandra, and we are seeing that the winners of Eknath Shinde group, they are coming together at this particular hotel here in Bandra, and soon there'll be Chief Minister Eknath Shinde also who will be arriving over here, and they will be also deciding on who will be the leader of their party in the Legislative Assembly. In the next part ally area, which is the NCP and NCP Ajit Pawar, they've already decided that the leader of the party for the Legislative Assembly will be Ajit Pawar, and that meeting was also held since morning. We also saw on the BJP front that the meeting was taken, and Chandrasekhar Bawankule, who is the Maharashtra BJP head, he briefed the media by saying that the process of the membership process of new people, onboarding new people for the BJP had stopped. Now it's going to be resuming soon, and this is obviously one of the initiatives taken by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So this is about Mahayuti. We are also hearing from MVA, which is the Mahavikas Aghadi. The defeat is hard to digest for them. However, we are also hearing statements from their leaders that they will now ensure the job to ensure that all the promises given by Mahayuti has to be fulfilled. They will ensure that. However, it is going to be a difficult task for them because no leader of opposition, the particular number required for leader of opposition has been reached by either of the party in the Mahavikas Aghadi. So we will have to see there as well how the situation turns out, whether the Speaker of the Assembly takes a call and, gives an opportunity to the Mahavikas Aghadi as a whole to come together and elect the leader of opposition. On the other front, we are also hearing that the announcement for the oath ceremony will also be taken soon, and we are also hearing that Devendra Fadnavis will be flying to Delhi and understanding how things are going to be working for Mahayuti over here. Overall, we can say that the much awaited meeting of all the three leaders of all the three parties should happen soon, because only there and then
they'll be able
this
to
particular
decide and
mystery
pick who
of who will be the face of Chief Minister will be solved.
Right. You keep a track of that. We'll keep coming back to you, Shama. Very many thanks for joining us for the moment. Thank you. And let's take a look at some other stories making news. General Upendra Dwivedi, India's Chief of Army Staff, returned to India on Sunday after a successful 5-day official visit to Nepal. The visit solidified the robust defense cooperation and cultural ties. It also underscored shared commitment of the Indian and Nepali armies to fostering peace, security and partnership in the region. India's Union Minister Annapurna Devi will launch a national campaign Ab Koi Bahana Nahi on Monday from New Delhi. The campaign, which aims to eliminate gender-based violence, is a collaborative effort between India's Ministry of Women and Child Development and the Ministry of Rural Development with the support from UN Women. The air quality in India's national capital region improved from severe to very poor category on Sunday morning. If that is an improvement, but okay, from severe it's become very poor. Delhi's air quality index recorded 334 as of 1 p.m. on Sunday. Air quality in the national capital remained hazardous for nearly a month. However, with increasing wind speed, improvement is expected in the coming days. Still to come up on DD India NewsHour, Red Bull's Max Verstappen wins the Formula One World Championship for a fourth straight year. And Jannik Sinner leads defending champions Italy into the Davis Cup final.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Amritpal Singh. On day 5 of the 55th International Film Festival of India in Goa, it witnessed culmination of the successful edition of Film Bazaar. Young champions also emerged with the conclusion of Creative Minds of Tomorrow 48 Hours Challenge. Team Green were awarded with a coveted trophy on day 5. The red carpet was also rolled out for showcasing world cinema. An Oscar-winning producer Guneet Monga held an exclusive conversation with DD India's Deepika Mehto on the sidelines of the IFFI, and it talked about the importance of Prasar Bharati's OTT platform Waves. Listen in.
We have with us the Oscar-winning producer, Ms. Guneet Monga. Ma'am, thank you so much for exclusively talking to DD India. First of all, many congratulations on the milestone that you've achieved. Tell us about the journey, because we were just hearing you talking about women and their roles, and women is a special focus at this edition of IFFI as well. How do you see the changing landscape of women?
When I started out in the industry, there's definitely more women working, but the stats are still, directors are less than 5%. Crew strength has increased. So I think that kind of conversation makes change happen. So we are having those conversations. I have a panel in an hour here for women in film in India, and what kind of skill development, what kind of processes we can do to be able to enhance that and change the stats.
And also, ma'am, what do you think, because the technology is fast changing, and now we've seen those era when we had just Netflix and just limited number of OTT platforms, but now we have Waves as well, which is more accessible. How do you see this change?
Waves actually will have a very, very pan-India approach, which is very exciting. It goes into even smaller towns and villages. So I'm excited. We have a documentary on a social cause, on child brides. And there could have not been a better platform than Waves and Doordarshan to take the conversation further.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So there you heard Ms. Guneet Monga speaking about the changing landscape and how technology can be a game changer with Waves, especially with camera person Alok. This is Deepika reporting for DD India.
And Deepika now joins us from Goa. Deepika, tell us what's happening there on day 5.
Good evening, Amritpal. Day 5 is as usual, buzzing with a lot of stars, having the red carpet events back-to-back lined up, where we are showcasing the regional cinema, the Indian cinema, along with the world cinema. Australia is the country of focus this time, but apart from that, there are other flagship events which are happening back-to-back here. Today is the last day of Film Bazaar, which is a B2B platform where international and national filmmakers, foreign delegates, and all the stakeholders related to the business of cinema, be it production, direction, or the equipments which are required to produce a cinematic work, are all gathered here in Goa to witness the culmination as well of Film Bazaar. And apart from that, because IFFI is also about giving an opportunity to the creative and young minds, so the 48-hour challenge of CMOT, the Creative Minds of Tomorrow challenge, also ended, and the award was won by Team Green today. Amritpal.
Very quickly, how's the weather and the party scene there that we hear a lot about?
There's a lot of networking meetings, networking events which are always taking place every day and every evening here across Goa. The networking meetings are being organized by different departments, by different ministries, also to host the delegates, the foreign delegates, the international and national stars who keep visiting Goa for the events. So the networking events are continuously on to provide yet another platform for the media personals as well as the delegates to have a one-on-one interaction behind the scenes, so that we can explore more opportunities of expanding the horizons while exchanging the world cinema.
Okay. Deepika, you're doing a great work. Have fun too. And most importantly, the next time around you go, take me along. Thank you very much for joining. And time now for sport updates. Virat Kohli hammered a historic century as India declared the innings at 487 for 6 against Australia on day 3 of the first test in Perth. India has set a target of 534 runs. Kohli scored a ton out along with Yashasvi Jaiswal, who was the star performer with his magnificent knock of 161. Apart from them, KL Rahul and Nitish Kumar Reddy also scored 77 and 38 runs respectively. On the other hand, Australia have already lost 3 wickets for just 12 runs thanks to the brilliant bowling by Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj. Red Bull's Max Verstappen clinched the Formula One World Championship for the 4th straight year after finishing 5th in the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Apart from 2 rounds to spare, the 27-year-old Dutch driver took an unbeaten 63-point lead over McLaren Lando Norris in the championship. Verstappen needed to finish ahead of the McLaren driver to secure the title. Ahead of the race, Verstappen was on 393 points, 62 points in front of his closest competition. With this win, Verstappen became only the 5th driver to win 4 championships after Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel and Juan Manuel Fangio. And in tennis, world number 1 Jannik Sinner defeated Alex de Minaur in straight sets to power holders Italy into the Davis Cup final with a 2-0 victory over Australia. Sinner, who's never lost against de Minaur in 9 matches, triumphed 6-3, 6-4 in Malaga. In the first singles rubber, Matteo Berrettini earned a 6-7, 6-3, 7-5 win over Australia's Thanasi Kokkinakis. Italy will meet the Netherlands, who have reached the decider for the first time on Sunday. Earlier, Dutch ousted Germany 2-0 to make the final for the first time in 104 years. And that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the codes that you see on your screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amrit Pal Singh from my entire team here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.